From this moldy culture plate came one of the greatest medical discoveries of the 20th century. The drug, penicillin, was to save millions of lives. It was the beginning of a revolution in the treatment of infectious disease. Its development, part of the Allied war effort, is thought by many to be as important in the outcome of the Second World War as the atomic bomb. But who should take the credit for penicillin?
It was Fleming's name and Fleming's picture, and Fleming's name in headlines that appeared in the newspapers. We thought at first this must somehow be a misprint for Florey, but it certainly was not.
A long-time controversy haunts this tale of a medical miracle. Tonight, Nova travels back in time to unravel the mystery behind the rise of a wonder drug.
Major funding for Nova is provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide. Additional funding was provided by the Johnson & Johnson family of companies, supplying healthcare products worldwide. And by Allied Signal, a technology leader in aerospace, electronics, automotive products, and engineered materials.
Next time on Nova. The triumphant development of penicillin was the first step towards a golden age of antibiotics. Within a decade, there were dozens of new wonder drugs, effective against a variety of diseases. But only a few years later, infections were mysteriously on the rise. The use of these life-saving miracle drugs had itself created a problem, resistance, which threatened to undo their first bright promise.
The pessimists would say that we may have found all the antibiotics there are to find. That in 40 years hence, we may look back on the antibiotic era as just a passing phase in the long history of medicine.
The problem is growing all over the world. And a recent outbreak at an Australian hospital showed just how vulnerable even the most modern healthcare system can be when superbugs outsmart the chemists. Join us next week as Nova explores when wonder drugs don't work.
For a transcript of this program, send $4 to Nova, Box 322, Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. Please be sure to include the show title. To purchase film or video copies of this program for educational use, call toll-free 1-800-621-2131. In Illinois or Alaska, call Collect, 312-940-1260. Major funding for Nova is provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide. And by Allied Signal, a technology leader in aerospace, electronics, automotive products, and engineered materials. And the Johnson & Johnson family of companies, supplying healthcare products worldwide.
Nicaragua on Frontline next. Wednesday on 13. At 8:30, Suspicion, Secrets, and a Stranger.
What you doing here?
You're worried about the young man?
Why is he here?
Donald Pleasance and Tom Conti play a dangerous game.
Traitors.
Blade on the Feather. And at 10, Rockabye.
Sam Beckett's new play. It is an absolute...
I know what Sam wants, and you know what Sam wants.
Directed by Alan Schneider, starring Billy Whitelaw. Rockabye. That's Wednesday on 13. Tomorrow night at 11, 13th commemoration of Women's History Month continues. Windows on Women focuses on public television programs from the past 10 years, which have dealt with women's issues. And Thursday night, there's more.
Today's women have come a long way in almost every field, including the football field. They're working out and playing hard at sports that used to be for men only. But are female athletes getting a fair share of the attention from newspapers, TV, and the fans? What will it take for women to make it in professional sports? I'm Marty Goldenson. Women in sports aim for settling the score. Next time on Currents.
Enter the new sports arena Thursday night at 8:30.
The UN Decade for Women is over. Was it a giant step for womankind, or have things gotten worse? I'm Susan Stanford. Join me and find out. Watch the Women's Decade Beyond Beginnings here on PBS.
A fight for equal rights Thursday at 11.
England.
You're watching only the best in public television, Channel 13 WNET Newark, serving the tri-state metropolitan area.
Funding for Frontline is provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tonight on Frontline, a war being fought in Nicaragua, but paid for in the United States.
I'm trying to help what appears to be a policy of President Reagan to provide help to the freedom fighters in Nicaragua.
Private citizens are raising money for a guerrilla war in Nicaragua. While Congress debates funds for the Contras, people like this man send millions. Is this legal?
It's a fine point. I'll admit that.
Tonight, who's running this war?
From the network of public television stations, a presentation of KCTS Seattle, WNET New York, WPBT Miami, WTVS Detroit, and WGBH Boston. This is Frontline with Judy Woodruff.
Good evening. Our program originally scheduled for tonight, Standoff in Mexico, will be seen in 2 weeks, so that tonight, just before a key congressional vote, we can bring you a special report. I'm Judy Woodruff. Good night.
For a transcript of this program, please send $4 to Frontline, Box 322, Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. Frontline is produced for the Documentary Consortium by WGBH Boston, which is solely responsible for its content. Funding for Frontline was provided by this station and other public television stations nationwide, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. For video cassette information about Frontline, please write to this address.
Living at Risk, next.